Yeah, hi everyone. So we have already seen how to write filters, projections, and things like indexing, slicing, etc. In the last two videos. In this video, we'll talk about functions, mostly global functions. So before that, let's first talk about what happens when we send our GROQ query to Sanity. So whenever we write a GROQ query and send to Sanity, maybe directly via an API or whenever we are using any plugin. So what happens is our query is sent to Sanity, where it is run in the Sanity content lake. So what is Sanity content lake? Sanity content lake is where all our Sanity data is stored in the cloud. Now the Sanity content lake has few namespaces. And now what is a namespace? Namespace is like a grouping of functions which are similar in functionality. We group them together and put it under a namespace. For example, functions related to maths, some calculation. So those functions are grouped together and put under the math namespace. So let's say the function name as min, max, sum and average. So those all come under the math namespace. Similarly, we have a namespace as string. So there are functions that come under string namespace, like starts with and I think split. Those functions come under the string namespace. Okay, I will quickly show you in the Sandy documentation. We go to the functions. So over here we can find these namespaces. These are the namespaces that we have, and all the functions that come under any particular namespace is listed in this documentation. I would suggest that you should all go and take a look. Coming back to Sanity Studio, we'll see how we can use functions from a particular namespace, and then we'll go back to global namespace. So first thing, let's say that we want to know, we have a movie schema. Now we want to know what was the total collection from all the movies. So what I have done is I have added one field in the movie schema. I added one field with the name collections, and I have added some value, 500, similarly 800, 900, something like that, for each movie. So now what we want is we want to know the total sum, the total of the collections from all the movies. So let's first find the collections. So we have to go to the movie, we have to query for movie. Now if I just run this, so over here you can see we have collections. So if I just want collections, so you can see I have the collections from all the movies. But now I want the sum. Now to get the total, we have a function named sum inside the math namespace. So how can we access that? So if let's go to the documentation and I'll quickly show you. So yeah, over here you can see from the documentation it says math, and then we need to pass 2 colons and then sum. So this is math is the namespace, and if you want to access the function from this namespace, so we'll write the name of the function, and over here it says we have to pass an array of numbers. So if I go back to Sanity Studio, you can see we have an array of numbers. We just have to pass this array to our math function. So math sum function. So over here I'll just say math. Okay. Yeah, math, and then sum. and in this I'm passing the collections. If I run this, you can see we have a total of 2600. Similarly, there is another function average. If we come here, we can check. Yeah, so over here also we have one, so you can see it is very similar. We just have to pass an array. So over here you can see, in order to access the average function, we have to mention the namespace, because if I just remove this namespace from here, if I run this, so we are getting undefined. Average is not defined. Similarly, let's say that we'll use another function from, let's say, string namespace. So now let's say we want to find the movie, all the movies that start with some characters. So let's first write type movie. Okay, now we want to see we want to query all the movies that start with, let's say, the word the. Okay, so over here the. So if I come here and if I look for starts with, so you can see we have one function, string starts with. We have to first give the search string that we want to search and a prefix that we want to search in this search string. So over here we'll come and we will say that we want string, the string namespace, and then starts with, and then the name of the movie is basically, I think, title. So title, and we want to see which all movies starts with THE. Now if I run this, so we have two items. One is the Martian and the other one is the Dark Tower. So this is, again, you can see we are using the string namespace this time, and this starts with function is under the string namespace. So this is how we can use it, because if I just remove the namespace, so it ends up with an error. Now we'll see how we can now we'll see what is a what are global functions. Global functions are the functions that are under the global namespace, and those are readily available, so we don't need to specify the namespace in case of global functions. So let's say that this is over here we are running a query for movies. Okay, so now we want to see the count, how many movies are there in the in our data set. So what we have to do is we have to pass it in the count function, because if I come here, so there is one function count which takes an array and returns an integer. So if I come here, if I run this, so this comes under global namespace. So if I run it, so you can see we are getting a count. Now if it does not mean that if we give the namespace it will not work. It will work, because the namespace is global and we give this 2 colon and then the count. And if we run it, so you can see we got the result 5. But the only difference is we don't need to mention the namespace, as these are readily available, so we can just use them. Now there are other functions in the global namespace, like the lower and the upper. So I think we already saw lower or upper, I don't remember. So let's say title, and I will say upper. Title will do both. So if we run this, so you can see all are uppercase. The same is for lower as well, which we I think saw in the previous video. Now another function, a global function that I want to talk about is defined. Defined is very simple, but and it's useful as well. Over here if we come and if I look for defined, So you can see it says returns true if the argument is not null, otherwise it returns false. So let's say that we'll go back to Sanity Studio, and what we'll do is we will see if there is any movie which has where the popularity where it does not have the popularity listed. So defined will return true if it finds something, otherwise it will return false. So over here what we are trying to do, we are trying to find a movie where popularity is not listed. So in that case we have to do a not, in this case inverted. So now if I run it, so we don't get anything. So there is nothing actually. So let's do one thing. We'll go back to the Sanity in the schema, and let's the wall E will just remove popularity. We'll go back to vision. Now let's run this. Now you can see we got it, because in this we don't have popularity. So this was the movie where we went in, we changed popularity to not defined. So this is defined is very useful in this case. Now there are other global functions that are available. We'll quickly look at them, like the date time. The date time. So over here you can see we can use the date time to find the time lapse. So let's say in case of our scenario, we are looking for the time since the movie was released. So over here we have, we'll say time since release. So over here we are trying to calculate how much time has passed since the release of all the movies that we have in our dataset. So for that, what we have to do is we have to first calculate the current time, which is date time now. So date time is a global function, and now is also a global function. Now will give us the current date time, and in the date time we have to pass now to get converted into a date time format, and then we will subtract it from the release date. Now release date is a string, so we have to pass it to the date time function. Now if we subtract this, so the result that we get is in seconds. Let's add the title as well. So what we get is in seconds. So let's convert this into maybe hours, or let's do it in days. So we'll do it 60. Okay, so we have, what we are doing is, these are in seconds, and now we are trying to convert this into days, number of days. So you can see these many days has passed since the release of these movies. Now it's fraction. We have a decimal here. So let's see if we can do some round, if we can round it up. So if I come here, and you can see we have a global function round, where we can pass the integer that we want to round it to the nearest integer, and we can also pass till how many decimals we want to round it. So in case of days, we don't want a decimal at all. So one way to do it is that we can wrap this whole thing into the round function, or the other way also we can do is we write another projection and we'll say days since release. Okay, and in this over here we'll pass time since release. Now now if I run this, so you can see we have date since release, so this is fine, but we are not getting the title. The title we are not getting because it should be in the last projection, should have everything that we want in the output. So we'll just take it from here, and if we put it here, still it will not work. I'll just show you. You can see title is null. Reason being, the queries go from left to right, so this projection sent forward nothing but time since release. It did not send forward title. So one way could be to use title. So if we send title, so we will get it. Or the other way that we already saw was sending ellipsis, because now we can also get the release date or anything else that we want, because ellipsis will be sending everything forward. So you can see we have the title, release date, as well as days since release. So this was the last and final video in this series where we learned about GROQ, and we started with the basics, then we went through projection in the second video, and this is the last video where we went about the global functions and the functions basically. There are many things in Sanity, in GROQ, sorry, like the GROQ arcade, and maybe a lot of things can be found in the GROQ documentation. Like if you are interested, I would highly recommend to go through these documentation, and you can actually play around GROQ. So thank you everyone, thank you for watching. Bye bye.